Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, Thomas. Welcome, Nicole. Let's see who else we got here. Crazy Witch. Yes. Thomas. Catherine. Yes. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Grizzly and Henny's Paranormal Cryptid Conspiracies.
Hey, Norma.
Reality
How you
or
doing?
fiction. Hey, Norman. So I was telling Chris before the show, on the way back from town, I don't know what I saw, but it wasn't humans and it wasn't turkeys. There were three of them sitting underneath the shade tree. Uh, they were taller than the weeds. They were sitting down. I wasn't driving, but anyways, that has been stuck in my mind all day. So unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I got some news. One of the guests that worked for the search and rescue team, we'll just say out of Tennessee, decided not to come on the show. I guess for various reasons, which I can probably understand. The second one out of Harlan, Kentucky, that very well knows about the feral humans or juvenile Sasquatches. I don't know what they are. Is not able to attend. We just found out right before we went live. So, have you all seen the movies The Hills Have Eyes or Wrong Turn?
I've definitely seen The Wrong Turn.
So,
I think I've seen The Hills Have Eyes, but I'm
if
not
you
sure
have
about that one.
not seen those two movies, ladies and gentlemen, you need to watch them. Especially, don't watch The Hills Have Eyes 2 or 3. You got to watch The Hills Have Eyes 1 and The Wrong Turn. You got to watch the first ones of each one. The second and the third, you know how that is. Hey, Roger, welcome to the show, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Crazy Wit. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so Catherine, yeah, you love the first one, man. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, the first Wrong Turn was definitely crazy. I actually seen a couple of those. But yeah, that's definitely nothing. Meth Squatch.
It's Meth Squatch. So, you know, so reality or fiction. So we're gonna go back. So I just got a message. Give me about 20 minutes and he'll be on. Okay. Great. So we got one guy gonna come on. He can validate some things. Dennis Martin back in 67, 69. Now this is an actual
69.
documented case. 69. Thank you for my fact checks. I haven't seen the new hill. I know the old one. Then you want to know why I carry extra? I gotta be careful what I say because we're being monitored. But Dennis Martin in 69 was a 7 or 10-year-old boy, right around that age, wearing a red shirt. Him and his family went to a national park in Tennessee, an Appalachian Trail. And they met another family with another child, a son, around the same age. And they had a lot of things in common. And back then, you know, people associated with people and were friendly. And so they kind of hung out and did things together. And they're like, hey, we're going to go on the trail. Do y'all want to follow with us? And they're like, well, yeah, why not? You know, y'all seem cool. We seem cool. And that's probably not how it went down, but I'm just ad-libbing it, ladies and gentlemen, right? So, yeah, Thomas, you know a lot about this case, right? Okay. So the two kids decided to play a joke on the parents. And they're like, hey, let's run ahead and hide in the bush. And they come around the corner, and we'll jump out and scare them. Well, Martin was wearing the red shirt. Well, evidently one of the dads overheard or knew what was going on. So they told the other parents that would just play along with, you know, the kids. We'll just
Yeah, they said the kids weren't being even all that great at hiding. They knew what they were doing. They could even see the red shirt run off.
Right, you know, so they kind of knew. But when they got up to the place where the kids were supposed to be, only one jumped out. And Dennis didn't. So that's where the story starts. And the child went missing. So what was very strange about this case is that we're talking maybe 30, 40 yards max, I think, where they guesstimated. Probably less than that, the distance on this trail. So during this missing child case, they got search and rescue involved. They got the National Guard involved, which was kind of strange. National Guard. Okay, all right. Local agencies, National Guard. Now that made me question. But ladies and gentlemen, what also they got involved was the Green Berets.
Yep, I read about that too.
Now, one of the things that I didn't understand was why would they have the Green Berets come in to help on a search and rescue mission of a 10-year-old missing child? So as an investigator, right, that threw up a lot of red flags, like what is going through people's mind. So I was telling Chris before the show, I've interviewed a lot of people and lives along the Appalachian Trail. When I lived in Lexington, I wasn't too far from it. I'm still in northern Kentucky, not that far from it, but it's still a little ways. I got a lot of reports of feral men being seen, or people. Now, when we talk about this subject, a lot of people are like, well, these are just hillbillies living, off the grid. That may be. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. From the reports I'm getting, these are people that are not human looking. They're like the movie, The Hills Have Eyes. Thomas says out of Fort Bragg, that is correct. That you're absolutely correct, Thomas. Movies, The Hills Have Eyes, The Wrong Turn. This is what people are telling me what these creatures or humans or whatever you want to call them look like, being seen digging through trash, whatnot. But anyways, go back to the Dennis Martin case. The search went on for a few weeks. Well, the dad goes back out in the woods and allegedly he hears a scream somewhere off in the distance. And he's on this trail. I don't know if he's by himself. You have to go back and read the story. But he sees a human covered in hair coming out of a bush, then taken off. He says it wasn't a natural human. It was very nasty looking, covered in hair, dirty, dingy. It pretty much scared him. But the reason why I wanted the guy from the search and rescue team on the show is that there was an FBI agent that was involved in another search and rescue mission back in the 80s or mid 90s, I think, that actually was involved in a search and rescue mission of a missing child as well. And he ended up finding a cave. In this cave, hey, Angel, welcome to the show. The cave was full of remains of human skeletons. And he lost his stuff. I can say that much. What I really want to say, I can't say on the air because of one of the channels we're broadcasting, but lost his stuff and lost his cool. I mean, pretty much was like out of a horror movie, ladies and gentlemen. So he went back and reported this immediately to his superiors. And his superiors told him to keep his mouth shut and don't worry about it, that they already know. And they're and that was it. And he's like, what do you mean that's it? I mean, there's a cave. I don't know how many people that are in there, skeletons that are in this cave that and what do you mean keep my mouth shut? So this FBI agent that's very well known, Chris and I, we went to try to dig up the story, and it's gone. It's
been scrubbed.
Yeah, it's not on the internet, so you can take my word or not. So I'm just telling you what I used to read and what I know of it. And the guy was going to come on and testify to it tonight that backed out. He actually went home, and he could not live with himself because he knew that he found out that these people that lived in Appalachian Mountains on this trail, that there were feral humans that were kidnapping people, hikers, campers, whatever, and cannibalizing them, eating them. And this is where they were disposing their bodies. And he found the cave, one of the caves. Now, if you've never been in southern Kentucky or the coal mines where they dig coals, there are vast amount of caves, coal mines that you will never be found. That's how deep they are, abandoned coal mines and so forth. Yes, Thomas. He was so overwhelmed. He did. He could not handle what he saw. He could not handle that his superiors did not act on it, that the government didn't step in, and he did. He took his own life. Yes, he did. And this is what the guy was going to testify to on the search and rescue team. So, and this leads me back to Dennis Martin case. That's why they sent in the Green Berets, is my thinking, because they already knew about what was going on. And we always said, with cryptids, Bigfoot and Dogman, and all the people in the missing in the national parks and forests and 411 and all other stuff, national parks don't keep records of people that go missing.
Nope.
And a lot of people don't realize that, do they, Chris?
Nope. I wish you think they would. I mean, I think it's been put together at least some 1,600 people gone missing.
Yeah. And the reason why they don't keep track of it is, they say it costs too much. Wait a minute. We print our own money, ladies and gentlemen. We make our own budget. So I don't want to hear that excuse.
Right.
But it's a cash cow. It's tourist, right? So, there's a lot of money to be made in the tourist industry when it comes to these national parks, Yosemite, whatever, Yellowstone, whatever parks you want to name, Mammoth Cave, the ones around here, Daniel Boone, whatnot, however you want to see it. So, when you send Green Berets in the National Guard, a lot of people, from my understanding, question why they were sending them in on the Martin case. They didn't really get answers, from my understanding, from what I read and for what I was told. But, on one of my shows, I was telling Chris before the show too, is that, we hear alleged Bigfoot consuming, humans. We hear Bigfoot, Sasquatch digging up fresh remains. Not now, because, they're encased in concrete or whatnot. What's mandatory here where I live, and vaults and stuff, or whatever you call those concrete things you put over a casket. I don't know what they're called, but But back in the old days where they used to put them in a pine box or whatever, that they used to see them, Bigfoot, Sasquatches, go out there and dig up the fresh bodies and carry them off. And I had people out in the audience testify to this, that my aunt would tell us stories that they would have to fight off the Sasquatches to get the family member, and they couldn't. So, what is going on? So, do we, take into account, does these feral people actually are part to blame? So, and this, which leads me up to my next question, right? So on one of my shows at the beginning of the year, I think I had a very famous psychic on, a very famous, I won't mention her name, and she's not on my panel, very famous. And we were talking, and I was like, I got a question for you. And she said, sure. And I was like, I want to know what happens to the missing people on Appalachian Trail. And she was like, what? And yeah, I just threw it at her. And she's like, okay. And so she had to get a piece of paper. And what she does is I don't know what you call it, but she has to scribble and she doodles or whatnot. So, and she did her thing and she went in her trance, and she said that she saw mass graves, and she start kind of like freaking out a little bit, and she's like, she sees a lot of bodies, and there are things, and she was trying to catch herself, but she said there are serial killers that are on the loose that are not been known, not caught, which we kind of figured that, across the United States. Okay, I get that, right? But then she said that there are things that are causing people to disappear that are human and not human. And she stopped. And I wanted her to elaborate on that, and she wouldn't. So I don't know if she was talking about feral or if she's talking about cryptid related, or was she talking about both? Because whatever she saw freaked her out. And the interview was kind of almost pretty much changed topic or subject, and not too much after that was kind of almost over. It was because it was towards the end of the interview anyways. So, but I blindsided her, not on purpose. I wanted to see her micro expressions and her expressions when I asked her that question. There are a lot of homeless people on the Appalachian Trail, a lot of campers that are homeless, just like you have homeless people that live in Los Angeles, downtown Louisville, and a lot of your major cities. But we're talking people. Hey, Lala, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. But we're talking about people that allegedly does not ever communicate it with society, that has not ever came out and abide by American law. We don't know if these people that just like some of the Indian tribes of, South America, from the Amazon, or different African tribes that never ever seen white men or humans. Are we talking about these tribes?
Native American tribes never really were colonized,
Right. I mean, are we talking about these type of people? So, and when we talk about people with abnormalities, people that are disfigured, usually we associate that with incest, right? Inbreeding.
Yep.
So, so when we get descriptions from people, eyewitness testimonies in the Appalachian Trail, that live at the bottom of the mountains, live in the mountains, and they're saying they're seeing these, I don't know what you call them, let's just say feral people, I guess, rooting through the trash, living like, cavemen or cave women. I mean, I have no idea. That's why I want that one guy, Jimmy, on here. because he can contest to some of them because he actually lives in Harlan, Kentucky. And he knows some people that actually allegedly saw feral people as well. And it really makes you stop and wonder if the government knows so much about what's going on, why don't they do something about it? You know, I mean, what's your take about it, Chris?
Well, I mean, just like anything else, like the LBL. I mean, they cover things up they don't want us to know. There's got to be a reason behind it. And I agree with you. I mean, it's a moneymaker. I don't know how much money goes into the Appalachian Trail, but it's also there's a lot of government funding that goes into that stuff too. But it's very highly unusual for the Green Beret to be called out for a civil situation. Even back in the '69, that happened. Um, it's I don't know. I mean, it's really really weird, and it doesn't surprise me that they want to cover something up though. I mean, if that guy found what he found, and if that's real, then maybe there's a lot more to it than we don't know.
Now, Angel, I worked in Indiana in the country. In Lexington, I was an officer, not a deputy. So I never came across feral. I came across a lot of homeless. I have interviewed people that allegedly have witnessed feral people in their yard or have seen them. Yes. Have I? No. So, and this is where, I was hoping that the search and rescue person that would come on, I don't know, maybe his retirement could be in jeopardy. I mean, we even offered to, come on with a different name and not even show his face, to offer him a chance to tell what he knows, because evidently he knows quite a bit. But for him to back out the last minute makes me wonder. There's got to be some validity to what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. People are seeing stuff down there. I mean, you stop and think, if there are feral people, just like the Indians that lived off the land, they can sneak up on you. You would not even know it. For example, look at the two hunters. I can't remember the two hunters, the two older guys. They went hunting, not even 100 yards apart. They lean back. They can see each other on the tree stump. And hours went by. They didn't hear each other. So one gets up and walks down to the other one. The other one's gone. Just totally disappear. They look for him for a week or so. No clothes, no gear, no hunting rifle, nothing. Just totally vanishes. So, is this what's going on? Is what, is what's happening? Is this what is part of missing 411? I don't know. What is your all's takes on it?
Is there I read a lot when I was kind of researching this. It seems like there's a lot of crossover between assumptions that feral is basically the same as wild man / Sasquatch. Are these juveniles that people have seen? Or are they actually truly feral human, like cavemen, or some Neanderthal, or even the Indians, just like you mentioned before, something native to the area? It's a wonder, because they do get described with a lot of hair on them, and it comes off almost the same as you would think of a Sasquatch, but it kind of, I can see where the area and the studies kind of get blended and grayed out with that. It's hard to tell and decipher which one's which.
See, look at Roger's comment. He's never heard of feral people, and I hear it all the time. So, and he lives where the Kentucky and Virginia's and West Virginia state line. So he lives in the corner pocket. So, you know, I don't know. And this is where I wouldn't like Jimmy. He's supposed to be on any second now to get his 2 cents because, you know, I mean, people are seeing something down there and I don't know. You know, maybe people are seeing juvenile Sasquatches. Maybe that is a mistaken identity. You know, that could be a possibility because, ladies and gentlemen, I was telling Chris, you know, when my cousin, when I was younger, probably, I don't know, 13, 14, probably around there, when he was down here at Fort Knox, being trained, I don't ask me his rank or what force or whatnot, but we were out back in the woods, and my neighbor at the time, he was at the chain link fence smoking a cigarette, and he told my dad, he's like, Uncle Mike, watch this. Watch how close I can get to this guy. And this was dark time. And this dude, my cousin, walked up like 6, 7 feet from this guy smoking a cigarette on the chain link fence next to the woods. Didn't even know he was there. And we were like, dude, you're crazy. What happens if you get shot? Why haven't you got a gun? You know, I mean, we're trying to get him back.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, so the Indians, right, indigenous people are very good at sneaking around, and so are Sasquatches and so forth. So what happens if it is a juvenile? So I don't know. But something's going on the trail and in these parks. The Appalachian Trail runs from how far to how far? Angel, Thomas, from what state to what state, all the way up to Maine, Maryland, isn't it? Or Maine?
I think Maine. I believe it's Maine down to basically through Georgia.
So, Norma, I don't know. I really don't know. My heart goes out to a lot of people because there are a lot of people go missing, you know. And okay, so you got the people that don't want to be found. You got the people that have mental health issues. You got the people, we'll just say, they don't want to live anymore. Okay, we'll use that term because we got to be careful on our verbiage. We got people that, you know, that just get lost. Okay, and then we got the unexplained that you just don't find a shred of clothing. I mean, vest, hunting caps, you know,
And there's
firearms.
and then they get the weird stuff that happens. I remember there's one account of a hiker. They found his backpack, his jeans, his shoes and socks, and his feet only, and the rest of his body weren't there. Basically, found his
Maine
feet
to Georgia.
on a
Thank
log.
you, Standing Stones. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's Maine and Georgia, and it's 2,190 miles long and 14 states that it's including.
Ends in Baxter
Yeah.
State Park in Maine. That's right. Thank you,
Yep.
Rebecca.
Yep.
But you know, I interviewed a police officer earlier this year, and he was in dismay. His oldest daughter wants to go hiking on that trail when she graduates college next year, and he is totally beside himself because she wants to do it alone, and he does not want her to do it, and he's forbidden her. He's tried to ground her. He's tried to punish her, and to no avail. She's like, "Screw you, Dad! I'm doing it." And he's trying to tell the horror stories about people going missing, about bad people out there, and people you don't know what's out there in the woods. And she doesn't care. She wants to be one of those ones that, hey, this is what I accomplished when I was, 20 something years old or whatnot. And this is one of my life accomplishments. And she wants to do it. But, we all hear stories about these people jogging up the trail, and the head leader turns around the corner, and they all turn around the corner, and the head leader's gone. And it's like, is it a portal? You know, did something snatch them and just take off and pull them in the book? I mean, we, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know. This is why we're talking about this. Oh, la la, look at that. Wee. All right. Thank you, la la. But you know, we just don't know, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, so what is your all's take on this? I mean, do you think it's cryptid related? Do you think it's just people out there causing mischief and mayhem and so forth? Do you think it's just crazy people just taking advantage of campers and hikers? Or do you think it is something that's feral or Bigfoot related or cryptid related?
I think there could be a combination of both going on there. I don't know to what extent, which one be more apt to snatch people up and possibly eat them and go cannibal on them. But we hear, we hear, we were talking about this before. We hear, some stories. I just heard an Indian talking about Sasquatch and they won't hurt people, but then there's the stories of them digging up graves and dragging bodies off. So you gotta wonder which one's real. Maybe there's some accounts of both are true, but obviously there's something going on. I mean, you find a cave full of bones and skeletons, and countless people, countless people. Like I said, the guesstimation was around 1,600 people missing on the Appalachian trails. So it's a lot of people. It's got to make you
Yeah,
wonder.
but see, and this is where I always say they never report the actual amount of true numbers. And I always will say that, no matter if it's crime stats, whatever, you
This is
know.
what's been gathered by Missing 411 that I can find, various ones, but again, that number does fluctuate. So
And see, and that's my point. So it really makes you wonder. Yeah, Norman, why the cover up? Now, what
mhm.
really makes me wonder about all this, about the Appalachian Mountains and the trails. Now, I was talking to this girl years ago. Man, it was probably over 5 years ago, and she lived like you looked out her door, and then right there was the mountains. And it took me about 45, 50 minutes just to drive to her house. And and she had a couple of teenage boys, and I forgot, somebody said something, and she had a real nice pond out back. And I'm like, wow, man, y'all go fishing? They're like, yeah, we got big fish out there. And she goes, we don't go fishing at night. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't go fishing at night? The pond's right up there. You know, you right there in a little hill, and right there's the pond. It's right out your back door. She says, She said, strange things happen around here at night. And, and I really wasn't thinking about too much, I just, that's all right. Well, and okay, coyotes and whatnot, whatever, I wasn't thinking anything. We're watching movies, having a good time and stuff. And I was more worried about the hitting deers on driving home than anything. And, and the more Appalachian Trail is what AT stands for, Appalachian Trail. And the more and more, I talk to people about Appalachian, however you say it, depends on where you're from. Uh, it really makes me stop and think, what was she trying to tell me? It's not safe to go out back up there on the pond at night,
Well, something
is there
like,
creatures? I
yep.
mean, was she afraid to tell me, hey, Brian, welcome to the show? So, now, I try to get a hold of her. She's not on Facebook, or maybe she changed her name. You know how people do that. Because I wanted to ask her a lot more questions
Hmm.
this past year. because it made me stop and think a lot, because a lot of people in these small communities, you know, knows about things and they talk about it. But just like the LBL, if you don't live down there between the land between the lakes, they won't talk to you about stuff. Angel, why does it make you wonder, Grizz? If people know dangerous, why does it go in the national parks? Why would? Because people don't. People don't realize it. They think the national parks and the forest and all these whatever is a
safe.
safe place, and it's
Just like the
not.
fact that it's been scrubbed, Angel. You go search that situation and it's not there. I
And
mean,
it was
go
there,
look at
Angel.
yeah.
It was actually out there. And if you look at the Martin case, the story has been changed. It's been altered. So since the last time I read it, because when Chris and I was talking about doing the show, Chris was like, I can't find anything. I'm like, what do you mean you can't find anything? Just type in this. It'll pop right up. Because I looked at it last year. I looked at it, you know, before, and I had to reach out to a few people to validate things, didn't I, Chris? Because we
Mhm.
couldn't find it. And I was like, what?
Yeah, the
So,
whole
yeah,
whole FBI agent stumbling on something in the caves, that's gone. You can't find
that is
anything
gone.
on it. It's
Yeah.
completely gone. The Martin one's still there, but it really
But the
they
story
really
has
don't
changed.
tie too much. How they ever tied that to feral people, I don't know. It does talk about that the family seeing some wild guy or hairy guy that was kind of hiding from them, and they just kind of made it part of that. But I don't know.
What has changed in the Martin case? When they brought in the Green Beret, uh, the new reports that I've read, they were not armed. They were armless. I thought that was ironic.
Now, why would they even come armless,
Yeah, yeah.
unarmed?
That
Yeah,
that because the question was when they showed up was why is the Green Beret here? And because that threw up a lot. The National Guard threw up red flags first, but when they brought the Green Beret in, that really threw up a lot of red flags because they were like, "Are we going to war? You know what are y'all expecting to find out in the woods?" So, and that brought up a lot of questions. And now, when you go back and read the story, it says the Green Beret was not armed. And I was like, wow.
right.
Just, are you going to make sure and put in there that they were not armed? And let me tell you something. You ever see a Green Beret out in the woods or out in the field with nothing? You are so full of doo-doo. So, yes. Spence Field. Yes, he went. That's correct, Thomas. So yeah, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Things change. So all right. So knowing that story can be changed, so you keep the original articles and print them, so you have firsthand account of the original. Well, actually, you used to, Angel Light. You used to be able to go through one website. I can't remember what it's called,
Wayback
and
Machine.
yes, and go back and get from the original article what changed and who changed it and so forth. That
They've
has
been
been
scrubbing
tainted.
that. They've been scrubbing those
Yes.
now too.
Yes.
Yep.
So unless you have a printed out copy that you can say that you didn't alter yourself, now you're just like I'm saying. I can't prove that FBI guy committed suicide because the guy's not coming on the air and testifying that he knows it, because he was a search and rescue for Tennessee for 30 plus years.
Your only luck
So
now would be to find a microfiche somewhere of a newspaper article that might be talking about it. But I mean, good luck with that.
I don't know if they even still use microfiche
I
anymore, do
know,
they?
probably not.
I don't know what they used to archive stuff with now. I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't know what they do archive stuff with now.
I don't know if you can go to the library and still use this or not.
Because I remember they used to have the old newspapers and the old books. Remember those big books where they used to put the newspapers in?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Yeah, I do agree with you, Brian. It does smell like BS. Because the more and more I looked at it, the more is like Red on Hansel, man. Don't talk about that, Rebecca. You give me the Gucci Oochie Woochies. Angel, I wouldn't suspect the National Park Service to make this very public outside. Now, so Angel, I don't know if you know about the land between the lakes, about the Dogman incident back in the 78, 79, or no, 82 or 83. I always get my years mixed
It
up.
was early '80s, I believe. I
Yeah,
believe
82 or 83. Thomas, what year was that? Land Between the Lakes. Somebody check me real quick. But anyways, we had West Coast Dogman. We had some Dogman chapters that went down there. We had some other organizations gone down there. They have sectioned off. They have removed the
80,
campground.
82.
82.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Some of the Park Service people, they wanted to talk about it, would not, that were down there. Some of the townspeople refused to talk about it, the older people. So they say it's all digital now. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. What is it like on a? I wonder how's it all digital? Is it like on a CD or something, or is it a thumb drive? Or I wonder how it's all digital. I'm going to have to find that out. But
Brian
now they
said it's
got
still available.
they actually got part of the park closed off now, where you could not go to. It's overgrown. They got some of the stands, the bathrooms blocked off, where it's just sandbarred off and whatnot. And they're keeping you out. So 82, thank you. Yeah. So they're keeping you out of certain locations, and because they're having a lot of activity. They had the cemetery closed last year, where they had a lot of sightings of Dogman. They just opened that up earlier this year, and that was very strange. Now, why would you close a cemetery?
Right.
Now, there's a lot of paranormal investigators that go out there, and they do a lot of ghost investigations and so forth. But yeah,
That's a creepy story. The massacre that happened there. It was really really sad. Like a whole family just got pretty much torn to pieces, except for one guy who ended up surviving it and able to tell the story. But they even found because the one dog man or werewolf, it's been up in the air between the two that I read. But the one I guess climbed up in a tree and then died. I mean, it's
I didn't
so
climb
they
in the tree. The child was put in the tree.
no they there was one that I read was that child was tore apart, and I don't know if he
You're right.
took part of the child with him, but the dog man ended up climbing up in the tree and ended up dying in the tree
Yeah,
as
because
well.
the officer that responded thought he was responding to a murder scene. That's what he was told on the radio. But the other campers that were there that witnessed what happened was totally different. So, but it just goes to show the misinformation that they put out there about parks and so forth. So somebody mentioned David Pilates in Missing 401. I don't know if it was Angel or somebody. Yeah, I mean he has a series of books out and some shows out. I think they're pretty good. It makes you really stop and think about it. Alaska Triangle and everything else. National Forest of Michigan has put a lot of steel gates and fences over trails to increase aggressive wildlife. Yeah, I've heard about that aggressive wildlife, and that's ironic.
Hmm.
I like the way, and I meant to bring that up on another show. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. Aggressive wildlife. Now, I can see that in elk and moose and something like that.
But wouldn't they
But
usually say like be specific about something if they knew? I just kind of leave that really wide open right there.
yeah, it does. It really makes you stop and think, though. So I just messaged your guy, and I'm not getting a response. So maybe he's still at his family function. He said give him 20 minutes. That was like 30 minutes ago. But I was hoping he can come on because, like I said, he's from Harlan, Kentucky. But you know, it just makes you wonder. Now, allegedly, there was another incident that I came across of that happened near LBL in the mid '80s. So I found that documentation online, and I should have dog marked that and brought that up tonight. But I didn't think we're going to go to that part of that story either. So Thomas, I
How many
agree.
things? How many things have happened there at LBL? I mean, I know the
So
one with the RV
allegedly,
or
there's
whatever.
supposed to be two, one in the early '80s and another one in the mid '80s. And for the second article, they claimed it was the same person that did the first one, which is inaccurate because they had eyewitness testimony that saw the creature that did the first one that came out of the camper, plus the claw marks and the scratches in and outside. Because when you know, if you never seen LBL, the land between the lakes, it's between Kentucky and Tennessee. Um, it takes a while to get there, you know, and if it's a murder scene, you know, I don't know if the police were in a hurry or not because evidently it was already done and over with. But, you know, let's say they were running code 3, right? It still took them a few minutes to get there. But the reason they found the child up in the tree is because they followed the blood trail from the camper, and the officer was like, with the flashlight, and he was like, a tree, and he lost his stuff. And I don't think he actually made it that much longer on the force. I think him and another officer ended up leaving for my reports. Thomas, I found a human head floating in Lake Barkley in the night. Oh, Thomas, I'm good. Yeah, I'm gonna have nightmares for sure.
Jeez.
I'm
Thanks,
good,
Thomas.
Thomas. So much for my commercials. So yeah, oh, that's wild. That's wild. But my thing is, and I say this on a lot of show, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are things that we don't know about in this world. I know that men are capable, and just like women, not just men, are capable of doing things that are unthinkable to human beings. We see it on Unsolved Mysteries. We see it on crime shows. We see it on all different types of television shows. That's unimaginable. How can somebody do that to somebody and sleep at night, right? To me, those are soulless people. Uh, Here's a suggestion for everyone. The reason why I'm reading this out, ladies and gentlemen, is for the audio people in the morning. Here's a suggestion for everyone. If you live near a national park, sign up to be one of the volunteer rescuers. That'll give everyone a lead to strange disappearances with firsthand accounts. Angel, they do have volunteers, a lot of volunteers that actually help out in search and rescues. But they still don't keep track of how many people go missing. Whether, you know, they don't keep track of, you know, the helicopters they bring in, the fish and wildlife, or the game wardens, the state police, the fire departments, all the park rangers, and so it's quite a big ordeal. So I'd love to learn more about the stories you grew up with, Crazy Witch. I must have missed Crazy Witch's stories. Did you see what Crazy Witch said or something?
Yeah, I missed that one too.
Yeah, it is, Brian. It's really sad. Who was that one guy that got attacked by that juvenile Sasquatch? What was his name, right offhand? You know his name when we
Randy?
talk about. Yeah, he's still having complications with his life and his YouTube channel being erased, ladies and gentlemen. Ever since he came on our show and told his story, and he finally, it took him what, almost 30 something, almost 40 years, didn't it, for him to
Yeah,
come
good
out and talk about it?
30 years to start talking about it, and a lot of the memories started coming back to him as he was kind of talking about it. So it was, I mean, that's got to be a pretty, you know, it's got to affect you a lot. I mean, it's got to be pretty deep in how it affects you and in your life. You probably just try to suppress it, but it eventually comes out, and hopefully not in a bad way. But how many times people have these encounters that go wrong, and it changes their life forever. At
Yeah,
least,
well,
at least he lived through it. Let's put it
well,
that way.
and that and see, and that's another thing though too is talk about encounters. So, how many people, that live along this Appalachian Mountains, right, the trail, or in the vicinity, that see something and actually just don't say anything, you know, or they're at the mom and pop grocery store or the gas station. They're like, "You ain't gonna believe what I saw last night," and that's it. And you don't get the report.
Like
You
three
know,
turkeys under a tree.
yeah, man, I'm telling you. I'm telling you,
Grizzly saw his own wild people today, his feral people, possibly, or young Sasquatch. What do
man.
you
If,
think?
if I had to take a stab at it, I'm telling you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what I saw, but you know how fields are not cut. It looked like I ain't gonna tell you what it looked like, but yeah, it looked like three people sitting underneath a shade tree at the corner of a field about 60, 70 yards off the road. Because I don't forget I live out in the country. So at first I was like, man, those are turkeys. I'm like, no, that can't be turkeys. I wasn't driving. I was in the back seat. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, there ain't no way in hell that's what that is. And then because I blinked and I'm like, that looked like head and shoulder. And it looked like one was slouched and the other one, it was just like people were chilling. And they were dark colored. And it freaked me out. I'll be honest. It didn't. I don't know. It
It
wasn't
didn't feel
turkey.
right. It didn't feel right.
No, it
You knew
didn't feel right.
something was off. But yeah, they
It's
seems
been
to be
with
a
me
good
all
indicator,
day. It's been with me all day. Now, if I was driving, I probably would have wrecked the damn car. I'll be honest with you.
no doubt. Drive another one to
So,
the ditch.
yeah, I probably would have because I'm trying to get someone to go out with me and to do some scouting out behind the house. After I heard those whistles that night, taking out the trap, I'm not going by myself. I've been warned not to go out by myself. I've been told not to go out by myself. So no. Standing stones, Bigfoots can dig up bodies. They wear stolen clothes off lines. They mind speak, cloak. So and yeah, that's what we're being told. So, and what am I supposed to tell people, And people that don't believe in that, that's fine. I understand they don't believe in that. But when we have people that say yes, and we had people come on the show and said, yes, we actually saw.
Mhm.
And we had, who was that Robin girl? Yeah, I've seen Bigfoot wear clothes. And don't get me wrong, it didn't fit them or anything. And we're like, damn, look, there's somebody else that's seen Bigfoot wear clothes.
Mhm.
So, and just like Al, Al, he's got numerous reports where they're wearing clothes and then they're stealing clothes off, clotheslines and so forth out in the country. Why
Yeah.
are they doing that? I don't know. Some people say that they're, mimicking humans. They're using them to bed down as nest. That to me, that would make sense for bedding or something like that. So,
And maybe they just like a little fashion in their life. Who knows? But maybe they like. Well, I mean, they could mimic, just copycat. Just like monkey see, monkey do, literally. So
yeah. So Angel, if all right, if people were being dug up out of the ground, come up would be 6 foot deep holes in cemeteries. That's not something you can just cover up. Not trying to remove to make a point. Well, we're not talking about today's age, Angel. We're talking back in the like 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Uh, when back then where people were being buried on their farmland, right? To be buried with family. We're not talking like actual cemeteries where you go to today's standards. Because today we have standards that you have to be buried a certain way, you have to be embalmed, If you're not embalmed, you can't have an open casket. You can only be out for, I think, a day or something. I mean, there's health guidelines now you have to follow. Back then, there wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that changed a lot of things. There was a Standing Stones. There was a story legend there about 10 miles, something called the Dover Demon. I heard something about that. Now, I don't know what that is. A strange being that had a big head and crawling on all fours. I don't know. I'm good. I'm good. See, you talking about crawling on all fours and big head? I'm out. I couldn't do that.
Apparently, Bigfoot does that with their little spider crawl, which has
Yeah,
that's got to be pretty creepy,
Now, I've actually seen photographs of Bigfoot on all fours, and I had them, and I was not allowed to show them. And it was somebody walking through the woods, and they were just taking pictures with the phone because they know they were being watched. And it was in a gully. There was one I call it a gully, but a little ditch thing, and it was right there 4 foot from where he was walking. And that was the creepiest thing that I could even fathom to see, with something like that. Now, Old Bear would talk about stories like that. That would creep me out. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, that's like an old cartoon where they're just like, do, 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 and they don't make a noise. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. So, Roger Blair, quite a few family cemeteries around where I live. Some of the headstones date way back. Yeah. Same thing with LBL. I think some of the LBL date back to the early 1800s, I think. So I could be wrong. Don't quote me. So maybe a little bit earlier than that. I'm not for sure. So
looked like it looked nude like octopus looking flesh. I kind of, is it you talking about the demon?
Where are you reading that at?
He was Standing Stones. Yeah, that one. Oh.
Wait a minute. No,
I
it
think
looked nude like an octopus.
He must be talking about the Dover demon still.
No, I'm good. No, I don't want to see that. Well, it looks like Jimmy's not coming on. I was hoping he would, because I wanted to give his testimony being in Harlan County. Standing Stone says yes. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Because actually, I think he was one of the interviews that we talked about with some of his neighbors seeing the feral people. But once again, is it misidentification? Yeah. Is it not a junior, but a juvenile Sasquatch, or is it people that just never came to civilization and living off the grid?
Makes you wonder.
So, but
I have no idea, but I don't know which would be worse. And I almost rather feral people to exist and not be the Bigfoot in my eyes, just because of the strength and capabilities of the Bigfoot.
I'd rather be Bigfoot, because if it's feral people, man, have you not watched Cowboys and Indians?
Sorry.
Man, people can walk through the woods and you could not hear or see them. And if these are feral people doing things to hikers, campers, or whatnot, and you're just walking along and you're behind me and I'm talking and I turn around and I'm talking to myself and you're not there, yeah, we got some issues, brother.
Yeah, I think Bigfoot could do that same thing, though.
Yeah, but I can hear you I can probably hear you being dragged away, I hope, or something.
Maybe just take everybody out. I don't know. So.
But my point to the fact about this whole story is that is there a cover up? There must be. Why would they bring the Green Berets in? Why would the story change on the Martin case? And why is the FBI guy not in the news like he was about taking his own life because of the cave? Now, I really wish that the search and rescue guy from Tennessee that spent all those years doing that search and rescue, because I know he's got probably a lot of good stories. But I told Chris off the air, he must know a lot not to come on the show to speak.
Yeah, but why won't he come on to talk about it? So that kind of tells you right there, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
that
Norma made a point earlier. It's like if it's been scrubbed, it's probably true, and there's some good likelihood to that as well. I believe she's right. Just like the fact checks. Usually, when I see a fact check, oh, okay, that must be real.
but
Because
here,
usually they don't fact check unless they have an agenda to it.
well, but here's the problem though, and I was thinking about this earlier while you were talking, and Brian, this goes from you too, Brian Barber, is that if they are erasing stuff off the internet, right, and even going to that one site, how are we going to know what's true and not true anymore? Because the only thing we're going to have is what we're talking about, and that's really it. That's nothing anymore.
Hmm.
That's just hearsay.
Yep.
I mean, because I can type up any document and print it and say I got it off the internet, but unless you got a source and a reporter and a date, time, and stamp, and something that you can go back and validate it came from that, that news article or that news department or whatnot. I mean, how can you validate that?
You actually have to have it saved or printed ahead of time. And how do you know what to save and print? You know what I mean? It's just almost like you gotta just have it.
Oh,
I don't know.
look at that. I didn't know Randy's getting copies of microfiche.
Ooh,
Well,
good
I
info,
would
Brian.
I would make copies of that. I don't know how you make copies of that, but I would have duplicates. I
It's got to
would.
be a way. There's got to be a way.
Angel says, I have a question. You spend a lot of time in law enforcement. Why would someone just try to expose the truth to cover some? Let me tell you something, Angel. I have been on places to where I was told to get back in the car. You was not here. So, and we know in law enforcement that they actually have nicknames or code words for Bigfoot. They're calling them bears. They call them other things too, but mostly call them bears.
We
And
know
Brian,
it's called compartmentalizing, right?
yep. And Brian Barber can tell you about all about the bears. He's an expert in the bear field. Uh, but it is.
Hmm.
I actually interviewed a guy, Angel. Uh, don't ask me what episode. It was a law enforcement officer. Him and his son was at home, and back then you couldn't leave your radios in your car on. You didn't have all the electronics that you did as you did today. This is, I think, in the 70s, 77, 78. Make a long story short, his partner down the road had a car wreck, and he told his son, "Get in the truck. We're heading down that road." And so him and his son got in the truck, and he showed up. So was the Fish and Wildlife was there, and so was an unmarked vehicle was there, and people with the uniform with no patches. And his buddy and his partner was still sitting in the car, and he was like, "Dude, are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, yeah." He's like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "Man, you ain't gonna know you." And he said he walked around the front of the car, and it looked like he hit a telephone pole. And it was out in the middle of the road. The car was.
And hit a
And
Sasquatch.
the game warden come up, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "That's my partner." He goes, "Get back in the car and leave." And the guy goes, "No, man, no, I'm not leaving. This is my partner." And they got the passenger out, the his buddy's partner, right? At the time they were riding twos, got him out of the car, and he overheard one of the guy with the uniform said, "Don't worry, we got all this taken care of." And the other guy grabbed him and said, "You need to leave now." And he actually escorted him back to his car and made him leave. Yeah, the guy hit a
Hmm.
Bigfoot in the middle
Nice.
of broad daylight, running across the road, 60 miles an hour. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're at least compartmentalized. I mean, all the way from the government, but you got to think, the police departments and sheriff departments and all them kind of function the same way.
So,
And
the thing is,
it all ends up
they
in
don't want us
politics.
to know. They do not want us to know, but we do know. We know the truth's out there, and that's the sad part. Now they're coming out with all these, whistleblowers. Ladies and gentlemen, they are out there to tell us this. They are out there to let us know this. They're not coming out of the blue
Soft
going,
disclosure. Yeah. Now there's a panel of like 70 whistleblowers. I mean, come on.
yeah, when somebody's out here whistleblowing and they're, if I was whistleblowing, I'll be like, hey man, and this is going on, and so yeah, I
Change
mean,
my name, do a voice change. I'll do it without, without video. Yeah, most people don't like to come out and whistleblow. So how long is it going to be before we see the Bigfoot, soft disclosures come out?
oh, that's coming. That's coming. Cat says, Dowsing says there are ferals or more than 100 in the cave system. Spreads the whole length. Highly possible some of them murders or blood related. Or murderers or blood related. Maybe some are playing both sides for bad reasons. A lot of caves, long distance. Big feeties share the cave systems. Oh, wow. So they share the cave systems with the feral people, allegedly. So that is a possibility too. So yes, Thomas, they do threaten people. Brian got threatened, and we'll talk about that when he comes on the show. So that was very interesting. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Randy. Randy got threatened big time.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's, I think, the
So,
part that they don't like is the fact that he talks about how he was threatened. His whole family
and
was threatened.
and when he got threatened, they had Indians there, the big chief Indians with the government. Now, my question, but the backstory on him, we'll throw this out here real quick. When he got attacked, and we're not going to go to the whole story, but when he got attacked by the juvenile, it broke into one of the neighbors' house, and the dad ended up dropping it, but he took 2 shots and it ran out, and they trailed it and they brought it back, and they did an autopsy on it on a picnic table, and they took pictures of it, and the kids took the pictures to school and did the show and tell, and all hell broke loose from there, ladies and gentlemen. The whole damn Congress showed up at the house the next morning or that afternoon or whatnot. Right after, man, they were already at the house before he even got off the school bus. So, yeah, so it was an interesting story. And after that, his whole show and YouTube channel went canceled, and it was horrible. And his life still hasn't been the same. So, but yeah, now Brian has got a sad story, but he'll have you in stitches, and he'll have you laughing so hard you'll cry at the same time. Sorry, Brian, I'm not gonna spill the beans, but it is. Yeah, Standing Stone. That's when they said it had 2 hearts. That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. So, but I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that Jimmy didn't come, and the guy from the search and rescue did not come, and he changed his mind as well, which I can understand, I guess, from his standpoint why he didn't come. But when you're out in the woods, stop to think about things. Look at your surroundings. It's. I'm not saying that you're going to be attacked by a feral person. I'm not saying you're going to be attacked by a cryptid or Bigfoot or a dog man, but ladies and gentlemen, there are human beings out here that walk among us that should not be free, that do things to humans that should not be amongst us and should be behind bars. And keep that in mind. You know, even in the parks, the national forest, you know, even though it's supposed to be a safe, fun family destination, you know, think smart, be safe. You know, think about safety. You know, we're not here to try to scare anybody. You know, whether it's fake news or not, you know, we're just trying to, you know, expose some of the things that are cover ups, and you know, and bring up some topics to light, because we really don't know. You know, it's hard to even talk about some of the stuff to some people, because if you are one of the ones out there that know about this stuff, contact us. You
Hmm.
know, you can come on the show. You don't have to show your face. You know, you don't have to do any of that. We can block out your picture. All you got to do is just like I do, just hit a button just like that, and we can change your name. You can put up a phony picture if you want, whatever you want to do. But we love to hear from you, because we do want to know the truth, right? So, what do you think, Chris?
Absolutely. We're definitely always willing to hear and listen. And whatever protects anybody's identity. I mean, it's a shame we didn't get our guest on, but again, in a way, it kind of validates it even more. I mean, if he's concerned about coming on, it makes you wonder. You know, it makes you feel like there's more truth to it than not. So,
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that wraps up another edition. So, coast to coast and around the world, and we'll catch you next week. And we'll have something good for you, ladies and gentlemen. You all have a good night. Take care.
night.
Bye bye.